Hey everybody, this is Doomhammer doing a Week 11 and Week 12 review of the 32-team franchise. We're going to go through a little faster here since it's 2 weeks. But on Thursday night here in Week 11, we see the Jets beating the Kansas City Chiefs 35-31. Alex Smith has 4 touchdowns, Matt Castle 3 touchdowns, but falls short. Then you have the Ravens taking on the Jaguars, and the season has not been going well for any of the AFC North teams. We see Baltimore fall to Jacksonville by 7. Colt McCoy with an impressive 271 yards. Eli Manning had 321 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, but it still was not enough for them to come away with the win. We see Demaryius Thomas, Dwayne Bowe both getting over 100 yards receiving, and Tavon Austin getting 115 yards for the Jaguars. Then we have Detroit, who's been making an insane comeback this season. They were like 0-5 or 0-4, something like that. Now they're 6-5 after Week 12. But we see Tannehill getting the win with a very modest performance. Reggie Bush, 105 yards. Both quarterbacks did a good job not turning the ball over, except for RG3's fumble. But again, we see the 41 yards by Martin compared to 105 from Reggie Bush. The Lions defeat the Vikings. Then the Browns fall short against the Carolina Panthers. Again, more AFC North demise. Joe Flacco is 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Terrell Pryor, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. 50 yards rushing for Pryor. Overall, and then T.Y. Hilton having a fantastic game, getting most of the receptions from Flacco. Then you have the Packers falling again, and this time to the Philadelphia Eagles. Donovan McNabb doing what he had to do. We see Stafford with under 200 yards passing. Nothing spectacular here other than we see Deshaun Jackson getting 188 yards. Really good game for him. Ted Ginn getting no catches this game. And then it's been pretty bad. Pretty bad for New England Patriots this season, going 4-7, losing to the Bengals, who were 1-8 at the time, I believe, or maybe I believe it was 1-8. Osweiler, 3 touchdowns, 288 yards, what you'd expect from a Tom Brady, but that was not the case this game. So we see 153 yards and 2 TDs for Hardy, and the Bengals get their second win of the year. And then we got the Commanders. Squeaking by a very tight victory against the Cowboys. Cowboys trying to have the best season they've had in many, many years. They've been a 7-10 team for quite a while, trying to break that 7-game kind of ceiling for them and trying to get into the playoffs. And then we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers able to get the win this time against the New Orleans Saints. Leftwich is close to being done as a starter for this year, as the Saints' playoff hopes are getting less and less. We might see Geno Smith very shortly. Ben Roethlisberger, 206 yards, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown, but better than Leftwich's 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. Lamar Miller, 78 yards. We've got Jared Cook, who's been back from injury, and him and Delaney Walker, 2 solid tight ends for them. A little bit younger there for Jared Cook. Came over in free agency this offseason, but he's been pretty good when he's been on the field. And then Deion Butler, man, this guy coming from the Falcons, he's got the 99 acceleration, 97 speed, 98 agility, just very fun to play with. We look at his season stats. He's got 630 yards, 25 receptions, and 6 TDs. Every so often, he just has a game where he goes off. It's fantastic. As a Peyton Manning player in Atlanta, I definitely miss him with the Falcons. Now, Oakland has been doing pretty well this season. We see them going 34-24. Tim Tebow having 5 interceptions. Matt Ryan having 5 sacks. Despite that, we see Matt Ryan protecting the ball well enough, and I think a lot of it was defense, because we had 2 pick sixes, which was obviously not great for them. And let's see, we did not have a kick return touchdown, but 2 defensive touchdowns is not what you want to see when you are playing as a team. But we got 14 points just from pick sixes. Tim Tebow not looking too great this year. 49ers fend off against the Seahawks. We see Breeze with a modest game. Glennon actually playing pretty well. 288 yards, 1 touchdown. but Lynch having more attempts than yards. So pretty bad 0.6 average. Brandon Pettigrew, 103 yards, which is pretty good. Then we got the Falcons take on the Bears, and they come away with a 3-point victory. Manning, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Campbell with 214 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Le'Veon Bell gets 81 yards. That's a big addition for them. Good to have him back from injury. Eddie Royal, Darius Haywood-Bay, we see as the main contributors for Chicago, both getting a touchdown each. And then Le'Veon Bell getting 99 yards. I mean, he's been really fun to play with, and glad he's back. The Giants here, they're starting to falter a little bit. They fall to the Tennessee Titans, who are the number 1 team in the AFC and the number 1 team in the league. First team to hit 10 wins this season. Tavares Jackson, actually with a weaker game than he's used to, but we see 42 yards rushing from him. So, and then 77 yards from Ryan Matthews. But kind of a disappointing week for the Giants, but great to see the Titans continue their progress. And now the Buccaneers prevent their 0-5 streak. They started off 5-0, then they were 0-4, and they pull off a win here. And surprise, next week we see Gabbert with a 2 touchdown performance, no turnovers other than no interceptions. There's that 1 fumble. McFadden and Best both getting a touchdown. Dalton has been pretty good this season. He's been lighting it up every so often, largely due to Mike Wallace, who gets 202 yards and 3 touchdowns in this performance, but they come up short. Tampa Bay gets the win. Then we look at next game on Monday night is the Texans getting blown out by Denver, who Bradford's been doing a fantastic job here. Let's see, was there any defensive scores here? I'm trying to remember. Yes, there was a pick 6. In addition, Mark Sanchez having a rough outing on Monday Night Football, not able to come away with it. And then you have the Colts squeak by a tight victory against the San Diego Chargers, just enough to keep Brady Quinn in the starting lineup after their season looks to be almost over because they're in the 4th place in their division, kind of fending off the takeaway from Kirk Cousins, but 72 rushing yards for Brady Quinn, which is quite impressive. Foster's been battling injuries on and off these past couple of weeks. He gets hurt during the game, so Marion Barber comes in, 2 TDs and 87 yards. And that will wrap up Week 11. Now we go to Week 12. So Thanksgiving. Again, a pretty bad week. Another bad week for the Patriots, getting pummeled on Thanksgiving. 4 interceptions for Brady, which was just insane. We see Reggie Bush with 166 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mario Manningham, 101 yards. It was all Detroit. Normally, it's the Detroit Lions getting embarrassed on Thanksgiving, but this time they come through. Lions move up to 6-5 on the year. Then we see Dallas, another team that's used to getting their ass kicked on Thanksgiving, comes away with a victory over the Texans in the Battle of Texas. Wilson with 2 touchdowns, interceptions. Sanchez kind of, not literally, but sort of literally fumbling this Texans season. We see DeAndre Hopkins getting 188 yards and a big performance here on Thanksgiving, but of course they don't come away with a win. Then we have the Saints with Geno Smith getting his rookie debut game start. He threw 3 interceptions, but was able to come away with the victory. We see 3 rushing touchdowns from 3 different people: Isaiah Peed, Mendenhall, and Geno Smith. So Osweiler coming up short. Bengals fall to 2-9. Saints go up to 4-8. Geno Smith is 1-0 as a starter. Olsen got hurt. I don't remember if he's still hurt. He is not still hurt. But Anobin, who has actually been pretty reliable as a tight end, I think he's a 5th-round pick, and he's been quite the contributor. But Saints get themselves further away from the number 1 overall pick. Then the Titans come away with a victory over their rival, the Jaguars. We see Colt McCoy, who's actually been doing fairly well with the Jaguars, keeping them in the playoff hunt. But they fall short to the Titans, who are just running away with this season. They signed Larry Johnson because Jonathan Stewart is out for 3 weeks. David Wilson's out now. And they end up bringing the veteran in, Larry. Let's see, what was it? It was 3 weeks to kind of help finish out this kind of later half of the season. So they bring their veteran running back in. He gets 73 yards. Greg Jennings 112, Slater 94. Again, Brad Smith is his status has been going down a bit ever since Greg Jennings came back. We can see the 103, 129, 120, 143, 117, then 56, 103, 30, 47, 50, and 27. So he's having a decline this season. Fantasy owners are pissed, but it's okay. Tavon Austin gets 97 yards. Then you've got the Giants, who fall again to the Commanders. This is pretty rough for them because the Giants were a playoff contender, and now they sort of have fallen in the rankings this season. Not great for Palmer. We see Michael Vick getting the Commanders, who were at the bottom of the NFC East, and gets them to be more competitive. So Dallas better watch out because both these teams are just right behind them. The Eagles are pretty much in a solid position to win this division if they don't screw up near this latter half. But Ryan Matthews, 132 yards, just not enough. Then a shocker here. The Atlanta Falcons, who were 8-2, fall to the Seattle Seahawks. Glennon beats Manning, which was a surprise for me. We see Bell getting 107 yards. It was the 2 turnovers by Manning, which really screwed him. But and I think it was a pick 6 too, wasn't it? Yep, pick 6. So Manning had a rough outing, but it is what it is. Falcons still at the top of the NFC. They hold the number 1 seed. And then another surprise here, the 8-2 Jets fall to the Green Bay Packers. We see Mike Tomlin, who's on the hot seat, and they should be winning more games than they are. 103 yards by McCoy. And it was just a really underwhelming performance. We see 4 sacks. And actually, this is partly in fault due to like Von Miller, Merriman, Ware, who are just freaking crazy. We see 2 sacks by Ware, 1.5 by Edwards. It's not letting me scroll to see other people, but 3 interceptions also come in here. So tough game, tough outing for the Jets as the Packers get the win. Now, the Baltimore Ravens took the lead early, and then it was all Cleveland after that. Cleveland with Terrell Pryor getting 56 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. I think what happened was they didn't turn the ball over, and that kept them increasing their lead. 2 touchdowns there by Anthony Gonzalez, whereas Eli Manning had struggled. We'll see if the Ravens decide to go quarterback, or maybe they could possibly try to fix their defense and go with a Khalil Mack, or because Jadeveon Clowney should and will be the number 1 overall pick, even for a quarterback needy team. I think you can't pass on Clowney, but you've got a lot of good defensive talent, even Aaron Barr, and Justin Gilbert's going to be the bad defensive pick, but there's players that they can pick in that top 5, like a Khalil Mack, that could be really good for them. Then we've got the Dolphins, who just pummeled the Bills. 5 passing touchdowns for Newton, 1 rushing touchdown for McKnight. He scored like right at the end of the game. Tebow played for the first half, and then Manuel played the second half. Both of them shared an interception together. Then you have D'Angelo Williams with 2 touchdowns, 85 yards, but Manuel having the 45 yards rushing. It just wasn't enough with a pretty low completion percentage there, 44%. Calvin Johnson Jr. getting 185 yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. Big game for him. Then we look at the Colts, who fall to the Kansas City Chiefs. Not a good game for Brady Quinn. Chiefs were 2-9, and they get a win here. Castle with 338 yards. The running back split about 77 yards apiece. Pierre Garçon, 108. Justin Hunter, actually, I think he dropped like a big touchdown too, but he has 173 yards, 2 touchdowns. Brian Hartline, 104 yards. Good game for the Chiefs, but Tony Sparano is most definitely fired unless they really make a turnaround. And then you've got the Broncos having a triumphant outing in St. Louis, defeating the Rams and Andrew Luck. Bradford has had a mediocre season, but a good enough season to get them 7-4. They're not winning the division because of the Raiders, but the AFC West is the division to beat right now. It was the AFC East, but then the Patriots and the Bills sort of screwed up. And let's see, any other highlights there? Not really. Then you have the Chargers, who do defeat the Raiders. So that was a good win for everyone in the AFC West but the Raiders. Chargers keeping the Raiders from running away with it. Denver one game behind Oakland. And then the Chargers getting themselves in I believe, the 7th seed right now in the playoff picture. They're just trying to hold that, if not ascend a little higher. We see them struggling with 3 interceptions, only 1 thrown for Rodgers. Really mediocre performance from him, but we see another injury to Foster that allows Marion Barber to get more touches. I think he gets hurt for the game. And no other real highlight there. No highlight player. And then you got the Bears going 8-3, defeating the Minnesota Vikings. RG3 having 3 interceptions, Campbell with 4 touchdowns, major difference there. Mark Ingram 81 yards, Golden Tate 104, and 3 of those 4 touchdowns going to him. Harry Douglas getting 96 yards for the Vikings, and you see Doug Baldwin with 1 touchdown. Then on Sunday Night Football, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting a win over the Eagles. So this was the 5-0 Bucs, 0-4, and then they are getting 2 wins in a row. Looks like Tampa Bay is finding their groove. This was a good win against the Eagles because they were running away with first place, but now I think it's the Falcons are technically in first place. 200 yards by McNabb, but 2 turnovers is very costly for them. Deshaun Jackson, 144 yards on both TDs. We see 3 TDs by Gabbert, 1 to Simpson, Macklin, and Orson Charles. If I remember who it was, did someone get hurt? Maybe not this game, but we see a classic game from McFadden, 195 yards, 2 TDs. Great game for him, getting back in the top rushers. And then a surprising matchup here. I have to see if the Cardinals overtook the 49ers in the division. But the Cardinals tie for the division. We see 242 yards, 3 TDs by Andy Dalton. Mike Wallace just having an insane season. The move from you see 202 last week, 143, 91, 175. He's been having a fantastic game. A fantastic season. Just had to change his jersey from purple and white to black and red. 49ers, Breeze having a decent game, but as you can see, the running game, once the Cardinals started to run away with it, they were not running the ball at all. And then you see 145 yards by Dez Bryant. So there you have the wrap up there. When you look at the division, we see the East is between the Dolphins and Jets, very competitive there. AFC North is still possibly winnable by Baltimore and Cleveland, and I guess technically Cincinnati, only being 3 games behind Pittsburgh with 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, with 6 more weeks to go. So I guess any team in the AFC North is still playoff bound, but I think Pittsburgh is going to hold on to it most likely. The Titans are well ahead of their AFC South, and then they're all starting to fall a bit, so they might be lucky to be 7-10 probably. Then Oakland and Denver, and then San Diego right now is claiming that 7th wild card seed. Good for them, and we'll see if someone's able to knock them out or if they just lock it down. Then we have the Eagles atop the East. Chicago there in the north, Atlanta, Tampa Bay fighting for it in the south. And then the 49ers are still ahead because they're 2-2 in the division where Cardinals are 1-2. But Cardinals are making a good run for the playoffs there. If I look at who's in the playoffs, it is Dallas, Detroit, Tampa, San Francisco. So the Cardinals are still outside looking in. But Detroit found their way into the playoffs, which I did not expect at all. Because just going to Detroit, look at their schedule. It was loss. Oops, I didn't mean to click on it. Loss. Oh, they got the win here. That's what it was. It was 0-3. Then they won 1. Got beat again. And then all of a sudden they started winning. So really good for them. When we look at some of the stats, here are the top leaders. You see Tavares Jackson. It's Jackson, McNabb, and Alex Smith in the race for the MVP. We'll see if that still stands. Then we look at passing touchdowns, 34 for McNabb. Brady up there as well. Interception leaders is Tim Tebow, Gabbert, and then Brady is now up there, which is unfortunate. Then McFadden just retook the lead as the leading rusher, so good for him, but that was a huge performance he had this last week. Past 2 weeks, actually, 200 and 195 yards. Matt Forte with 16 touchdowns, doing fantastic with Reggie Bush right behind him with down by 4. Mike Wallace is still in the lead with receiving yards. Calvin Johnson, a little sluggish, but he's still gets 1,000 yards here by week 12. And then you see Deshaun Jackson, Julio, and Percy Harvin. Let's see, AJ Green, he's at 11, so Julio's outshining him. I go a little faster here. You can pause if you want to take a deeper dive into tackles. Sacks is still led by J.J. Watt. Barkevius Mingo is actually having a great career here in a career start in Dallas. 7.5 total sacks. Definitely different than his Cleveland days. Interceptions, Ladarius Webb, and then we see Chicago coming up here. Kicking, there's not really much to showcase in this regard. Rankings, we've got offensive rankings, Eagles, Raiders, Giants, Titans, Colts, largely due to Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Worst offenses is Seattle, of course, Texans, Bengals, Bears. Bears, surprisingly, they're doing really well. Maybe is their defense carrying them? They're 10. I guess they're just having good games and they're winning when they need to. Falcons have the number 1 ranked defense with the Dolphins, Broncos, Ravens, and 49ers. So interesting, the Ravens are a top 4 defense, yet they're 3-8. I guess it's just, well, maybe they should look at a quarterback in the top 5, like Blake Bortles or Teddy Bridgewater. And who knows, maybe Teddy Bridgewater would be a perfect, sort of like a Lamar Jackson, but 8 years earlier or whatever it was, 5 years earlier. And we look at the worst defenses, the Eagles, the Chiefs, of course, Colts, Giants, Packers. That's interesting because the Packers are loaded with defense. Like, I'll just wrap up this video with showing you their defense. So DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller, they've got Brandon Browner, Fletcher. I guess they have a great linebacking core. I guess they could use some help in the safeties. And I guess their pass rushers and their D-line could use some help. I guess they used to have Vince Wilfork and Darnell Dockett, but I guess they aged out. Maybe I think I let them go somewhere else. So, yeah, this is like close to a potential rebuild. But if you look at their offense, their offense should be great too. They're top 8, but I don't know what more I can do for this team. I mean, maybe a better tight end, even though Cameron has been pretty solid. Cameron hasn't been the reason they're doing weak. I mean, Cameron's 32nd leading receiver, 804 yards, 6 touchdowns. They're just not coming away with wins. And I know the North, it's more about the Chicago Bears, quite frankly. They're the ones that are coming away with it. Their defense isn't technically that great. I mean, they got Tommy Harris in the front, pretty solid defensive backing core, but they're not like star-studded anywhere. Is someone injured, I think? Keith Rivers, yeah, okay. But yeah, well, thanks for watching this video. If you like these updates, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next update.